Well, would you look at that? I haven't fired myself from hosting this podcast yet, so I'm going to call that a small victory. This week, I'll keep this intro pretty short. What you're about to hear is part 2 of a long conversation that I had with Jonny Edward about all things WPPI 2024. If you haven't had the chance, be sure to go back and listen to part 1 because that will give you the foundation for everything that we talk about here. That's it. That's my introduction. So let's dive in, shall we? Thanks again for joining me. And without further delay, here's part 2 of the WPPI 2024 recap with Jonny Edward.
You know, I guess probably the biggest overriding thing, like the thematic element that keeps coming back to me is this idea of like, firstly, honoring ourselves as artists and then thusly honoring those who we're working with alongside colleagues, allied professionals, models, subjects, you know, all of these different things. And it just feels like it's really easy to lose sight of that. Yeah. You know, art to me is this really beautiful, poetic expression of self. And so when we lose sight of ourselves, we lose sight of our art. And then when we lose sight of ourselves and our art, we lose sight of everything that comes along with that, everything that sort of encapsulates. And that includes the people directly and peripherally who we're engaged with and involved with directly and indirectly. But I think so much of this just comes back down to that, for me at least.
You know, I find myself beating myself up quite a bit because I feel like an elitist. I feel like a snob, or that I have a very high opinion of myself when I go to a show like WPPI because I'm so insulated in my own little world of my own business and I'm trying to make things work and survive. And I don't know the numbers, but I'd have to say probably 50% are probably not full-time pro photographers, right? Or they're pro, but it's a side hustle or whatnot. Yeah, which is all fine. But I think I find myself being a little bit too exclusive, too elitist. And I want everybody to be at the same high standard that I try to maintain that, you know, is my version of a high standard. Yeah. And when I don't see that, I get annoyed. And, you know, that's not necessarily right. It's not my position to judge anybody else or feel a certain way about someone because they're not doing what I'm doing. So I often find that I need to keep myself in check because I can go from just kind of cool guy to judgmental asshole in light speed. Right? I'm a nobody in a huge pond of photographers. Yet in my own world, I am a big fish in a teaspoon, right? So, you know, as much as I sound like I'm cutting things apart while I talk about this, it's really nothing but stream of consciousness. So, you know, we were talking a few minutes ago about the shooting bays and ways that we can maybe improve them. I wanted to get your thoughts on a couple of things. One, I know when we go into the shooting bays, there's typically one light, maybe a 2 light setup. Yeah. And like you're saying, don't touch them under penalty of death because then you won't be able to get a properly exposed photo. Yeah. I wanted to get your feel because they went back to strobes this year from constant lights last year. Yep. Would it be better to say, all right, here's a 2 light setup. Here are the settings for 3 different looks with that 2 light setup. And you have 3 minutes, 1 minute for each setup to try it out, to give people a little bit more variety. I don't know if that's feasible, but let's talk about that. The constant versus strobe. Can we do, you know, multiple lighting setups in one bay?
So on the constant versus strobe thing, obviously I'm heavily biased in this since I predominantly use constant lights these days. And I do that for a number of reasons. As an artist, I use constant lights, and I've elucidated on this a little bit before, but because it allows me to stay better connected to the person in front of my lens. There's less technical minutia to deal with. There's less things that could possibly go wrong. If you're working with a professional model, sometimes it's really nice to have a strobe because they can just move relative to the flash, right? So you're working with someone who's amazing, and and it looks like dance, and it's mesmerizing. That's not how most people are who step in front of our lens. It's jarring. If you're nervous and you sit here and you put me in front of all these lights and I'm uncomfortable, then you just start throwing strobes at me. And I'm like, fuck, and so it's uncomfortable. So I do that, number one, to stay connected to the people, but as an educator, especially because I work with so much shadow, it's really brilliant to be able to demonstrate foundational lighting topics in real time. If I were to take the key light in front of me and move it away and say, this is what feathering looks like. And so we don't have to imagine it, and we don't have to chimp to a screen on the back of a camera or something we're tethering to. You can just see it. You can see fill in real time. Here's what happens when we turn that up. Here's what happens when we turn that down. You can see the affected color temperature. Look at when those shadow lights become warmer and cooler. So it's a lot easier to, I think, educate and empower photographers when working with constant light. So once again, this goes back to ideal versus monetary. And I think that's the big debate. I know that ProPhoto wanted to be the exclusive provider of light, and ProPhoto, I love working with your strobes. If you want to pick up a maniac who makes amazing art as a wild card, hit me up sometime. I'll totally throw everyone for a loop and switch over to strobe. That's not true, but maybe it's true. I know they wanted to do that. I wouldn't necessarily want to see something like WPPI or TPM switch to using constants exclusively, but I think a mixture is important. I think it's really important to be able to show photographers that ultimately, outside of the physics element, light is light. Whether it's coming from an incandescent bulb, whether it's coming from the sun, whether it's coming from a strobe, whether it's coming from a constant light, light is light. And of course, light behaves differently. And we could talk about CRI and skin tones and get into the nerdy aspect. But for our purposes, 95% of the time, light is light. And I think it's important for people to get away from the dogma and from the sales pitches and go, oh, fuck, like I can literally have a light bulb from my house and make world-class art. I do not need to have a $5,000 strobe with a $5,000 modifier on it. I also think that it allows us to educate better when we're working with constant light. So that did throw me for a loop. And in fact, with the production team, when I was talking to them before WPPI actually took place, I was like, listen, if there's constant light, please give me that. Because then you don't have the trigger issue. And I think for me, that's the hardest thing, I guess, if I was going to summarize this, is if you're a newer photographer, new-ish, if you're new to, let's say, studio lighting or whatever we want to say, you're not comfortable. We don't even need to use the word new. I think that's probably wrong. You're not comfortable with studio lighting. And now you have 30 fucking people behind you, and you've been waiting in line for 30 minutes, and it's someone you really want to photograph, and you're already fucking trepidatious, and you might be taking that Xanax just enough, and you're fucking shaking, and you're like, hello, my name is Chris, and I love your look. And now you have this fucking light you've never worked with. You've never mounted a trigger onto your camera. You don't know why your screen is black because of exposure compensation. And you're sitting there and you have 2 minutes to create, and it feels like everything is going fucking wrong. That's a shitty experience.
Yep.
I think that for me was harder than anything else, was seeing someone who is so excited and so fucking elated then look at their camera and go, Johnny, why is it black? And I'm like, listen, it's for this reason. I've never used your camera. If you take it to Canon, Fuji, Sony, they'll fix it for you. Come back. I'll make sure you're first. But it was so defeating for them.
Totally.
So it adds an unnecessary layer of technical complexity to people who are already struggling with the technical side of our craft.
Right.
And I think that is very, very unfortunate. So I would love to see the reintroduction of constant, and I don't care. It could be Nanlite, it could be Aperture, it could be Godox. I have no invested interest, but I think just to allow people to be more invested in the creative process rather than technical minutia, that is huge.
Because they're now looking at you to be not only the model and the teacher, but also the technical expert on their specific camera model from their specific platform, on their specific firmware that they haven't updated because they didn't know they could update it. That was one thing that I saw over and over and over, and primarily with Nikon shooters, that their exposure compensation setting is buried like 37 menus deep. And it was unfortunate because I saw great shooters with great ideas struggling with the technical side. And I think that does add into the frustration. It takes you out of the element. It takes you out of the process. And all that good energy that you had just spills out all over the floor because you got defeated by your camera. You know, one thing I would have liked to have seen, because ProPhoto did a great job, and the production team are the unsung heroes of the
Ellen
entire
and everyone else on that team are fucking the real MVPs and heroes.
Watching Kellen and Matt just crush the entire show. I mean, it just nonstop. I can't imagine what's on their shoulders, and they crushed it. But having technical experts in the Shooting Bay area, a pro photo representative or two, right? Going back and forth, just making sure that people understand how to use the trigger, maybe talking about the product a little bit.
It's a missed opportunity for these brands to me too. And obviously, like, I'm a single fucking solo LLC guy who's in the suburbs of Denver in this, you know, generational area where I'm basically surrounded by nothingness or people who are in their 70s who want to give me antiques. So, like, I am very isolated in that way. Not isolated like you. But I mean, so you take this pro photo idea. The other brilliant thing is, if I was pro photo, not only would I want my technical experts there to do that, but if the line is 20 people long, walk that line.
That's
Say, hey, everybody, you're going to be coming up. Let's do this. Let's do that. It allows for a level of interactivity and service that could directly translate into revenue. And it's not to say sell to us at all points in time, but from more of a consultative element to be like, hey, have you ever used strobes before? No, you haven't. Are you on Nikon? Let's make sure this setting is right.
Bingo.
The value that would fucking add would be substantial. The comfort that would create would be amazing. The stress that would alleviate would be fantastic. And especially for the person who's running the booth or for the model, they're now not being confronted with that in that 2-minute period. That has already been addressed and is taken care of. So this person can focus on what it is they are doing. And yeah, I think it's, you know, sometimes you get thrown to the wolves. There's an understaffing element to all of these things, always, everywhere in life now. You know, if you're going to have someone running a booth, they should have worked with those strobes or gotten a crash course on it. Even if it's a basic video thing, like, this is how you swap a battery. This is how you reset the transmitter. These are the basic things. And even having a laminated sheet for them to say, like, if this, then that, here are the 3 steps. Like, unplug the modem to start, give it 10 seconds and plug it back in. That's hugely empowering for everyone. So I couldn't agree more with that. And there is that sort of sad element of the timer thing. Like, I did not run a timer the first day. WPPI production quickly gave me a handler day 2 to run a timer for me.
Yeah.
Now, that was kind of odd because everyone was self-managing, and I would address them and I would just talk to the crowd en masse and say, hey, listen, I'm not going to run a fucking timer. Number 1, I don't have the ability to. Number 2, we're all adults. If you take a little bit longer or you're a little bit shorter, but let's be courteous, you can feel the energy when people are like, all right, Matt, you've done fucking enough. Get out of the way. Right. You know when you're overreaching. Let's self-manage because we're adults.
Totally.
Let's self-manage because we're a community. And I get that that's not necessarily feasible for every place and time, but that hardline 2 minutes, even when I was shooting at a couple of the bays when we were together at TPM, I got in and I got that one light turned off. And by the time I turned that light off, got my camera settings fiddled, went in and talked to the model who was there and said, hey, I'm Johnny. What's your name? You're a fucking badass. Thank you so much for killing it. And step back. It was, Johnny, you have 47 seconds. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay. Exactly. Now it's time to go. And for me, the trigger wasn't registering properly with my hot shoe. So I was dealing with an exposure compensation issue. And I just shot with the black screen. And what a lot of people don't realize is on mirrorless, that actually affects not only what you're seeing, but the focus based on how stopped down the lens is. So then your camera's guessing while you're guessing, and the strobe's firing at random fucking times. You're like, I hope I get something that's fucking great. And you might luck into something and you walk away shaking and you're like, oh, look at this great photo that I kind of made, but was kind of made for me just based on chance and happenstance. Yeah, I love the idea of the settings thing that you said too. I think that even if it wasn't 3 defined settings saying, all right, people, we're working with strobes, we're locking in our ISO and our shutter speed. However, here's 3 different aperture settings for low key, high key, middle of the ground. Right. Really dark shadows, really bright shadows, somewhere in between, and saying, shoot with all of these. See what you want, because what people would do, especially since I'm a well-known photographer as well, is they take a shot and I'm like, hey, what do you think of it? They're like, Johnny, what do you think? And I go, it doesn't fucking matter what I think. Like, I'm not here to portfolio review. I'm not here to create for you. Do you want bright shadows? No. Well, then that's probably not good. Let's darken those up. Right. So giving people some levity or some like space to play in a way that's still safe, in a way that's still predefined, but where there's some fucking switch there would be monumental. And then someone gets to decide for themselves with the brain that's between their 2 ears. I like it darker. I like it brighter. And then they start to develop a way of critically evaluating their images. So in a very direct but indirect way, we start to better equip these artists to evaluate their own work and what it is they want to do and why. And so we're not just having someone recite verse, we're helping them actually develop the language skills to compose verse of their own. And that is massive.
At Portrait Masters in Arizona last year, when I was helping in the booth, when people would come up and before, someone would be shooting the next person in line, I'd be having the conversation with them saying, so what is it that you have in your mind? What's the look that you want to have? And is this how you would set things up? And they might say something like, yep, this is exactly what I wanted. Or I've never used strobes before. Or, I usually only use one light. That at least gave me information to say, great. I understand what your level and capability is. Do you want to stretch that, or do you just want to shoot your style, or do you want to shoot for a properly exposed photo as listed on the settings on the beautiful white poster board? Do you want that? My intention was to just get people to think critically about what it is that they wanted, to slow down a little bit, have some intention, and tell me what it is that they saw in their head so that I could help them create that. Because I did not want them, like they were doing to you, say, what do you think of this? I would always turn that around. What do you think of it? Is this what you think in your mind? Yeah, totally. Right. So, in thinking and brainstorming like we are about how to make this experience better from a shooting bay perspective, I had alluded way early in this conversation to Peter Hurley's section down the end, right? I was wondering if it would be possible to create a cordoned off area just for shooting bays, kind of like they had in the TPM portion earlier in the week, and have in that main hall a cordoned off area for nothing but shooting bays, have a limited amount of people, having like a bouncer say there's only 100 people allowed for these 30 shooting bays at a given time, and you've got an in counter and an out counter. When someone leaves, then you let someone else back in, right? And in a way that allows people to not feel the chaos and the pressure and the intensity of it all. And they walk around and they shoot what they shoot, whether you have time slots or whether it's a one in, one out thing, capacity issue. I feel like by removing that into its own area, that, it'll be crowded at times and it'll be a, good flow all day long, but it's not going to hinder getting to some of the other booths as well. And it's not taking away from the vendors. And if you wanted to have vendors or other high profile educators wandering around the shooting bay area, awesome. That just adds to it. I feel like we're trying to combine too much into the trade show portion and we're sacrificing creativity for commerce, right? And there's the balance that everybody that's ever organized a trade show has to wrangle with, right? And it's not an easy task. But I'm wondering if more people are leaning into having that shooting bay experience, making that its own thing. Disneyland pass. Instead of going on photo walks, I've got my $150 ticket, and that allows me into a private shooting bay area as much as I want during the week to learn different things, to work with different lighting, rather than just having an avenue of shooting bays, creating an experience out of it that is attached to, but somewhat separated from the main trade show area.
Oh, great.
What were some of the best things that you saw at the show?
I think probably my favorite things that I saw had nothing to do with the shooting bays, had nothing to do with the vendors. It was seeing people who, let's say, only knew each other online from across the world and running to each other like a cinematic film and jumping into each other's arms going, oh my God, I finally get to meet you. I finally get to say hello. I finally get to hang out with you. You've helped me so much. We've known each other for years. Now we get to be present as people. So that humanistic element, seeing the same thing in the hallways of people being like, oh my God, oh, it's so-and-so wonderful. Hey, can I get this and get that? Like, that was really, really beautiful to me. It felt so innocent and it felt so whole and wholehearted. And it was such an aside to the chaos and the commerce and all of these other things that sort of define so much of this, to just see people genuinely excited and impassioned to see one another and to be present with one another. That for me was absolutely brilliant. I love that. There's some really amazing educators, and I love seeing the people who have notoriety be gracious. To actually stop and take the time to go like, hey, I'm exhausted, but oh my gosh, you said you love my work. I have 2 minutes, but those 2 minutes are yours. Let's talk. Let's take a selfie. So seeing people being human and operating from that sort of almost prerogative of humanness was brilliant. On the flip side, I saw some really ugly things where there were people of notoriety who literally could not be bothered to even smile at folks, and that felt really fucked up. But the nice thing about that is the contrast creates a beautiful differential where you see the people who don't do that, and it makes the people who do that much more significant and lauded. I mean, to be completely honest, since we're this far into the conversation, some of the best chats I had were in the bathroom. No lie. Like, I was standing at a urinal and someone came up and they're too down spaced and they're like, hey, you're Johnny, right? You know, doing the side. And I'm like, yeah, I'm Johnny. What's going on? And they're like, yeah, you were killing it out there, man. Like, I really want to come to your booth. That's phenomenal. I'm like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Madison, Wisconsin. I shoot weddings. Oh, what do you want to get into? And so over the course of this streaming, 30 or 45 seconds, you know, we connected as human beings and we're washing our hands. And it's like, hey, I hope to see you tonight. Are you going somewhere? So, you know, even you talking about that element of things being removed, I would love to just see like an off-floor lounge. And it doesn't have to be a quiet space, but in one of the other rooms, it's like, hey, do you need to reset? Like, we're going to essentially use library voices. We're going to have some ambient music, some chill stuff playing. There's fucking chamomile tea and water. You can come in and you can just sit amongst everyone else and just be like, hey, we're just people here. And we don't have to be in motion. We don't have to be achieving. We don't have to be producing. We don't have to be purchasing. We can just be present with one another. There's so much power in that, and that's a hard thing to quantify. But for me, that was my favorite thing. And I had that happen. Jovan is a perfect example of this. She's this, you know, spark plug of a woman from Serbia and is really amazing. And we've been talking for a long time. And she literally ran up and was like throwing Muay Thai elbows at people to get through the crowd and just jumped onto me. And Kelly Robitaille was there. And she was like, whoa, is this okay? I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. But It was hilarious. And she's like, oh my God, Johnny, my image is being judged right now. I have to get in there. And I'm like, I hope you do well. She's like, I don't even give a shit about that. It's just nice to meet you. So those moments between moments were fucking amazing. Us at the Capri, you know, just sitting there dancing and looking around and being like, all right, for a second, there is no hierarchy. There's not like, oh, you're a professional and you're a hobbyist. Oh, you're an educator. Oh, you're an artist. Oh, this, oh, that. There's just people who are, you know, getting near 3 sheets to the wind, double fisting drinks, kind of bobbing around like Night at the Roxbury going, oh, this is fucking cool together. That was lovely because there were no airs. There was no presupposition. It was just like, oh, we're all fucking here and none of us know what we're doing. And we're all trying to fucking figure it out. And we're all spiraling into entropy. And we're all going to go back home and go, what the fuck just happened? But for these very ephemeral moments, we're just like, all right, we're here and we're together and we're enjoying this. And that's enough. Hard stop, period on the fucking sentence.
Yeah, I found that quite a bit, especially at that big party. That I did look around at one moment and everybody was just really cool with each other, which is a big contrast to the same party, same club last year where there was just a really strange vibe to it. They did a great job. And, you know, you'd mentioned one thing about, you know, having these kind of like chill rooms. When I was going to SHOT Show for a lot of years over at the Venetian and the Sands, one of my friends' companies would have a suite, and a good size suite, that was open the entire week. They spent a good amount of money on it. It was basically a Delta Sky Lounge, you know, where you could wander in and out. There was always someone there from the company. And people could just go. You didn't have to be like, oh, if it's the Pro Photo Suite, you didn't have to go up and talk about Pro Photo gear or do anything. It was literally just cheese and crackers and drinks and quiet and good internet. And it wasn't so removed from the show floor that you felt like you had to walk to another hotel to get there. It was, you know, a conference room that they had commandeered and turned into this. And it was great because if someone did want to slip away and get off the floor just so you could have a conversation, be like, hey, let's go over to Johnny's, you know, suite and talk in there for a few minutes. And it was great. And I really enjoyed that. And that's not something that I saw. And maybe I just didn't know about
Right.
them and that they existed. But outside of the staff rooms, I don't think anything like that existed.
Yeah.
And it could be a great thing, hey, this lounge sponsored by Profoto on Tuesday, sponsored by Sigma on Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. And have it be a place that people can go and just relax a little bit. They did something like that at Portrait Masters in Arizona. They did, they had like quiet rooms with beanbag chairs and whatnot. Yeah. And it was a pretty cool idea. So I'm just wondering if that can grow to scale, or if it would just be unmanageable. I don't know.
And you even talking about that makes me think, not, once again, not to shit on anything or be overly critical, but like just better signage in general. Like just no one knew where the fuck they were going most of the time. Even me being on production, being on modeling, and this isn't a knock on production, they did phenomenal relative to the cards they were dealt. But like when I had to go eat the first day I was on the show floor, they were like, oh, it's in Montego D. And then someone's like, well, there is no Montego, there's Montenegro. And I'm asking everyone who has a badge who looks like their hotel staff or security staff, no one knows. And finally, I just started walking and I saw someone with a plate of food and I was like, it has to be that way. And I just wandered into this corridor, into a door, but there were no signs anywhere that said anything. Right. So I think people, like there's so much going on and there is so much overstimulation that even to go, well, like, yeah, it's the place where Pratik had his class. And you're like, that was 24 hours ago. And I dumped all of that information out of necessity. So just having some guideposts or people who are just roving, going like, oh, where are you going? What are you trying to get to? Is that for TPM or WPPI? Are you just trying to register? And hopefully getting an anchor point so something like registration doesn't move. So then you get there and they're like, oh, it's in, Archive C, and you're in Archive C. They're like, no, actually, it's in Balloon A now. Right. And that's exactly 3 football fields away that way. And you have to knock on the door and say banana to get into the basement to get your badge. And it's just unnecessary brain damage for everybody.
Right.
If any of this is something we can do a thing about, let's remove it from the equation. It's sort of like, obviously I have this maximalist thing going right now, but like in my photography, generally speaking, I'm like, does this element say something in the frame? If not, let's remove it. So all of those unnecessary obstacles that can be addressed, all that means is that people are going to have a better experience. They're going to be more connected. They're going to be more immersed. They're going to be more joyful. They're going to be more creative. Like we have a finite amount of energy as human beings. So let's not make people allocate that finite energy to things that we could address on their behalf. From the forefront of it. And that's, for me, that's what it really sort of boils down to.
For me, the energy this year was definitely better than it was last year. I think, there were more people. There was definitely more excitement around everything. I, too, met a ton of people that I had never met in real life. And that felt really cool to actually be able to shake the hands of people and give hugs to people that I've known for years and never met in person. I spent a lot of time with my friend Bassam, who I've known for years, and he lives 5 hours north of me, and we've never met. So it was good to spend a lot of time with him. The vendors this year were very well curated. Maybe the vendors just came back that haven't been there for a few years. Right. And it seemed like there was just a better energy amongst the vendors. There was more to look at, more to play with, more to see. And it was a really good time. There were a couple of things that I really loved about the show. And there were a couple of things that I didn't like. And I think we've talked about the stuff we didn't like. But what I did love in the TPM Summit, in the Portrait Masters Summit, was the fact that there was one room where we all got to see all the speakers. There was no running from place to place. Yeah. It was just, you had your seat, you had your room. It felt intimate. It felt good. It was very engaging. And I really like that setting. But again, you've got 8,000 people in an area. Logistics are logistics, right? So I'm not bashing anything, but I think that's one of the things that I loved, because it just felt better. It felt smaller and more communal. I started looking across the industry. There aren't a ton of photography podcasts that are not technically focused, right? Mm-hmm. You've got Nikki doing the portrait system, which is phenomenal from a business standpoint. Yep. You've got podcasts out there that are very focused on, no pun intended, very focused on the technical aspects of things. There's room for so much more personality in this space? Should there be a gossip podcast? Should there be an industry news where, it's like 60-second industry news?
I do think that there's a sort of pervasive self-imposed stoicism, right?
Yeah.
Where we take everything so seriously, and shooting is serious, and what we do is serious, and making money is serious. And there's all of this weight to all of it. And I think I tend to be a counterpoint to that just because I'm a big personality, and I laugh at myself, and I laugh at the world, and I'm an ass, and I'm an asshole, and I'm also a really amazing person, and all of these things sort of coexist. So yeah, I think that there needs to be more space just for fucking fun.
Right?
Just for fucking fun. And I think that even goes back to the idea that we were talking about, not to diverge back into the shooting bay thing, but like, that's why Mitzi's thing was so great. Yeah. Because I was all so serious, and there were serious models, seriously styled, doing very serious things. And then she was over there with these really radiant human beings, be like, pretend like you just had a Jack in the Box pop at you. And everyone's like, because it was such a counterpoint to the austerity of so much else.
Right.
So not only do I think there is space for that, I think it's a fucking necessity. I think it's a natural part of human emotion. Like, we need a space to be vulnerable, and that's also something that's missing. Like, where do we get together and not talk about it from an analytical standpoint, but just say, you know what, Matt, like, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. I don't think that I'm any fucking good. Like, I might just want to sell the business. I'm not making 6 figures right now. In fact, I'm struggling to make fucking 5. And there's someone banging on my door right now who might break my kneecaps. Like, that type of thing needs to be spoke about, but we just need to laugh at the joy of it, at the absurdity of it, of the fact that this is what we do and how we do it, and bring some other emotions in so that we could be more whole as individuals and as a community, and embrace the entirety of this. And I even have to do that at workshops sometimes. There'll be this thing and everyone's so focused. It's like, well, I need to get the shot, and this needs to go into fucking Photo Vogue, and I need to make 2 steps forward, and this is going to result in 7, 10K sales. And I'm like, listen, this isn't a knock on anyone, but for a second, can we just admire the fact, or appreciate the fact, that we're in the fucking first world. We're in a beautiful studio. We're all eating fucking, like noodles and curry. We're photographing beautiful humans as beautiful humans. Like, this is fucking pretty amazing. And let's just laugh at the fact that we all happen to have converged at this point in the butterfly fucking effect of all of this, that we happen to not only be alive, but alive together, making fucking art in a world that's on fire.
All week, you and I had our different stresses.
Yeah.
And getting through the workshop really at the end of the week really started to set the tone for that Friday night.
Yep.
So last Friday night of WPPI, the show had ended on Thursday. We do the trade show. We do the workshop all day Friday. And then we have to pack up all the gear and send it back to Nanlite. And I'd just like you, from your first person perspective, to talk about what happened, because we had a great team packaging up all of these lights that Nanlite had sent us.
So this is for any of you, once again, who haven't been involved in production, this is a little bit of insight into how these things actually unfold or fail to unfold. Wonderful day. It was once again such a great day. We ended on a good note. Everyone was fucking dead on their feet. Yeah. Like Matt had said earlier, by 2 p.m., people like ordered food in, and there's just people with subs halfway in their mouth staring at the ceiling like they're on, horse doses of Xanax and ketamine. They're just fucking gone because it's been an exhausting week, and for all the right reasons, but it's still overwhelming. Sure. And so this ends, and we're wrapping up, and we have all of this stuff to break down. We have 6 sets. We have the gear that we brought in. We have Paulina's stuff. We have Nanlite stuff. We have to separate out everything from Black Box Studios. And thankfully, Matt was there, Kayla Douglas was there, Rick Lewis was there, and we had a bunch of attendees who were like, I'm in it for the fucking long haul, which I'm so grateful for.
That was great.
I kept trying to get rid of them. I'm like, you paid me to be here. You do not need to help. And they're like, fuck you. Right. I'm going to help because I want to be of service. And I was like, all right, I'm going to put my ego aside and say, you know what? If you're giving me your hands, I'm going to put them to work because we need this fucking help. So anyway, we do this in mass as a team. And some people are really experienced with this. Some people aren't, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we're just trying to make sure the right lights go into the right boxes. Gear gets separated, basic logistical stuff. So we get into this, and then we realize we don't have the shipping labels. This is the first thing, right? And let me backtrack for a second. Namlight was kind enough to send this literal trailer worth of fucking gear, this veritable pallet, to the Mirage to make things easier. Well, it came via UPS unbeknownst to me and arrived at FedEx. So the first surprise was, before we're breaking down, is picking it up. And, you know, the people at FedEx are like, oh, yeah, there's a $250 handling fee. And I was like, what do you mean? You received packages. You received a package. Like, that's what you do. It'd be like getting charged a grill fee for a steak or hamburger. And you're like, how else do you make this, sir, miss, whomever? So that was fine. That was an incidental cost, but we get it. We get it over there. We don't have enough space. We had to get Uber XLs. I literally got put into the back of a truck like a Tetris piece and probably dislodged multiple vertebra, being stuck in the back of this fucking truck like a minion. And I'm already small, but I got cut in half, quite literally. So anyway, we're packing all this stuff up and we realize, oh, fuck, we don't have the shipping labels. And so everyone pauses and we were in such great momentum and we're all shooting the shit and we're dancing and we have music on. You know, we're telling jokes and we're just there as people, and a hush falls over the crowd. All of the energy that was up here suddenly comes down.
Sucked out of the room.
It's a whisper, and I'm like, hey, everyone, you're all doing great, but the reality is we don't have the labels, and we need to open up and unbox everything that we just packed up, because without those, we can't do anything. And to everyone's fucking credit, they took it on the chin, and everyone's like, that's fine, we're going to make this happen. So everyone starts unboxing. I can't remember exactly who it was who found it. But someone finds it, and it was like the winning lotto number. They hold it up, and it was like fucking a scene from The Lion King. We all looked up and were chanting. You know, it was the sun rising in prehistoric times, and we're like, fuck yeah. And so that's fine. So we get back to what we're doing, and we're re-duct taping, and we're repacking, and we're doing this, and we're doing that, and we're getting everything segmented. And now we're looking at time, and we're like, holy shit, like if we don't get these boxes out to ship tonight, we're going to have to do it tomorrow. We have no way to stage these in hotel rooms. We only have one predominant vehicle. We're already renting things. We have to make this happen tonight. So I find a FedEx store that's open until 8. And it's Friday fucking night on the Strip. So it was empty the day before. It is now chaos. Like absolute chaos. Like LA freeway meets fucking an apocalyptic movie. And Paulina's husband, Bill, and I are like, we're fucking doing this. So we throw all of these boxes into the back of the truck. We're wedging things in. We're trying to figure out, you know, how things can't fall out. I basically have my head out the window like a watchdog. So at stoplight, some unsavory character isn't going to steal one of these lights and take it to a pawn shop. It's fucking insane. But like everyone's on high back at the studio. Bill and I are driving. We're stuck in traffic. There was a broke down Corvette from the 80s that held up traffic. Like it was nuts. It was something out of an indie movie, you know. There's just this sort of like EDM soundtrack playing in the back, and I'm like, Bill, if this doesn't work out, you know, what are we gonna do? And he's like, you know, maybe we'll just drive off a cliff. And I was like, yeah, that'd be sweet. And so we're in this pseudo existential, pseudo excited, pseudo exhausted state, and we get there and we have the fucking truck is loaded, and so we put all of these on flatbeds and we get in, and I'm doing a jig. It's like the Joker coming down the stairs.
You made it.
Joaquin Phoenix. I have fucking Sinatra playing. I backpedal in. Guys like, what's up, guys? And we're like, we got to ship this stuff out. It's going to be fucking amazing. I'm getting ready to wipe the slate clean. And he's like, where are the labels? And I was like, boss, the labels are on the fucking box right where we put them. You can take a peek right there. And he's like, man, what the fuck, dude? These are UPS labels. You're at FedEx. That uncomfortable pause is exactly what happened. So for me, everything came, I was received at FedEx, and I'm like, all right, there was a handling fee, so whatever's going on with the shipping, it can go out via FedEx. That's what was at the Mirage? No. And because all of us were so utterly exhausted, none of us took a look at the labels we were fixing, not out of this team of 10. And so I'm like, fuck, okay, who's open UPS-wise? No one, man. All the UPS closes. So now I'm dealing with the fact that we're in a 24-hour fucking city, Sin City, where like places close down at 6 p.m. on a Friday night. So I'm calling access points literally for UPS. I'm like, listen, I know you guys only deal with drivers. I'll throw you fucking hundos. Like, I got money in my back pocket. I'll rub your back. I'll, you know, be godfather to your first child, whatever the fuck. And they're like, sorry, sir, we'd love to help you. We can't. So Bill and I get the bright idea, fuck it. Like, we're going to try and go to a Walgreens, right? Like, they have a UPS store. They're probably not equipped to handle this, but I'm like, someone there needs some fucking money. I'll ply the trade. I'll do whatever I need to fucking do. Like, I'll don a Walgreens outfit and dance on the strip for the next 4 hours to bring people into a place they can get cheaper booze, whatever the fuck. So we're heading to this Walgreens, and then we realize it's the Walgreens on the strip, the eponymous strip Walgreens. And we're like, well, that's not going to fucking work. So we get stuck in traffic. I'm calling Matt. I'm calling Paulina. I'm like, hey, things are fucked. I don't know what we're going to do. We need to schedule a pickup. We need to do this. So anyway, it's just this fucking thing. And I'm now, my wit's end was an hour ago, was 3 debacles ago. So I'm just sitting in the truck dead-eyed like a shark, just staring at these neon lights. And I'm not even upset. I don't even have the energy to be upset. I'm just fucking completely convalesced. And so we show up and everyone's like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, let's unpack it. I'm like, it has to go back inside. And so we come up with this plan where Paulina and Bill are going to take care of it in the morning and they're going to get an Uber XL. I'm considering changing my flight. I can't do that because it's just madness with people trying to fly out. We come up with this fucking plan and it ended up working out. Like, credit to Paulina and Bill. Thank you, Black Box Studios, for letting us stay there. They were so kind. They didn't even charge us for the staging of the extra hours. The best of humanity. Like, people fucking came together and were like, listen, this is a problem, but in the scheme of life, it's really not a problem. Let's fucking pivot and make it work. And so we get with the plan, and now Matt and I are going back to the Mirage, and I'm just like, we're sitting in the back, and Matt's like, how are you? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, how are you? And he's just like, Like, we're both speaking in evangelical tongues. There weren't even words being enunciated. We're both just, like primitive grunts.
It was at that point that I realized I hadn't eaten all day, right? I'm the type that will go, and then realize, oh God, I have not even low blood sugar. I have no blood sugar whatsoever. And I'll crash. And that's exactly the way that I was feeling at the end of the workshop. Now, I'd snacked kind of throughout the day, but never really had too much of substance. And so sitting in the back of this truck on the way back to the hotel, feet are killing me. We've just had this amazing, like, emotional day. And then the problem that we have to solve. And all I'm thinking is, like, I just have to get back to the hotel room, take a quick shower. I need something to eat really bad. So we get back, and because it's Friday night, and all week I had brought out with me an edible chocolate bar, a 200 milligram edible chocolate bar. That was going to manage me throughout the week. And it was doing good. It was mainly for sleep at night, make sure that I could sleep a little bit. And I had a couple of pieces left, probably, 40 milligrams worth of chocolate. Now, here's where it gets fun. So we go back to the room. You and I are sitting there just dead-eyed like sharks. Like that. And I'm like, all right.
And exhausted.
I'm like, all right, you go prep. Let's go get dinner somewhere. Everybody that we knew was basically gone. I'm like, let's go get sushi downstairs and hang out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this chocolate bar right now, and then we can just kind of groove on a Friday night. Totally not intending to do what I did, which was take that, get dressed, and in my low blood sugar haze of my brain, I took the other half. Now that's it. I was just hungry and I was just eating chocolate, and I realized, oh no, I've made a disastrous error, and wind up realizing that I'd taken about 35, 40 milligrams of this chocolate bar, and I go, that's a lot for me given what I'm about to do. We go downstairs to the sushi restaurant, and we had the same waiter that we had a couple of nights prior.
Yep.
And he seemed a little bit aggressive on this night. He was great the first night we were there.
Yeah.
We tipped him well. I don't know why he was aggressive, but he kept coming over, and we were both still sober at this point.
Yeah, going, relatively lucid.
Is he like fucking with us a little bit?
Yep.
Like, what's going on? So he brings over the sake. We're having sake, but everything out of his mouth was like, looking at us a little weird. And I start to have these moments of paranoia where I'm like, is he dosing our food? Like, did he put something in the sake and he's just waiting for it to kick in for us? Because everything is just a little bit weird. So we're sitting there and we're having a good time. And then it happened. Everything kicked in at once. When they put those first person cameras on, you know, and it's facing the person's face and they're looking around and the whole angle is just this real dystopian view of what person's experiencing, and they're stumbling through a party, and sometimes it's like hyperlapse. That's what I felt like was starting to happen. I look up from my meal and I look at you, and you've got eyes the size of Frisbees, and you're looking at me going, oh yeah, we're in the same place, aren't we? And I said, yep, this is going to get weird. We need to settle up and get out of here immediately. But let's use the restroom first. And we get up and start walking through the casino, and we do one lap around the casino, and then we do another lap because we just kept taking rights, and we wound up at the same spot, and we're like, I can't do another lap. So we're like, all right, let's hit the strip and just go outside, get some fresh air. We started walking out of the far exit because we for some reason, couldn't find a restroom at the Mirage.
Yeah.
Don't ask why.
We got stuck in the casino floor loop. Like, we were just literally, it was like Groundhog Day.
So we find this exit, and it's by the rum bar and the cafeteria. So we go out and we just start walking. We get outside and we get hit with that fresh air, and it feels so good. And it's the lights of the strip, and I'm standing there and I'm going, we made a disastrous error here as well, because now we've got to deal with the strip. Keep it together, keep it together, keep it together, keep it together. Now, at this point, my high is getting more and more and more, and I'm just starting to feel super groovy. And when I get like that, I shut down and I'm observing everything. And we're walking by street performers that are awful, just not good street performers at all, playing organs, playing guitars, playing pipes. I don't know what they were playing, but it felt like walking the 20 yards past this guy playing an organ took us 45 minutes. And it very well may have taken us 45 minutes, but we're walking. So that's happening. I'm getting freaked out. I look over at you. You're just laughing at me because I'm freaked out, but you're freaked out too. So we keep walking. All of a sudden, a woman starts running at us full bore. I don't know what's happening, but she takes off. Suddenly, a guy's chasing her with a full beer in his hand.
Yep.
I think he had just robbed him of his phone and like took off. And he tried to chase, like grabbed it out of his hand while he was talking and just ran. And he winds up tripping over a curb and eating it. And everybody was just like, oh, no one looking to help him. No phones came out and were like, look at this guy. But I'm like, we just witnessed a crime. Keep walking forward, keep walking straight. In the distance, we see Caesars. Caesars must have a bathroom because
it's like moth to a flame. It's a beacon.
There was literally no place to just turn off into like an In-N-Out burger or something to use the restroom. So we're like, all right, let's go into the casino. Now, after a week of being at WPPI in the Mirage, now the Mirage, if you haven't been to Vegas, is kind of like the middle-aged couple of the Vegas casinos, where they kind of want to go out and party a little bit, but, you know, around 11 o'clock, you're kind of dead, you know, as opposed to like Aria or Cosmo, which are much younger and hipper. And the Mirage is a great place, but it's just kind of like a middle-aged married couple.
It has that 80s nostalgia vibe about it to satisfy the causes.
So we're like, all right, there's Caesars. Let's get into Caesars. And we walked in. I was not ready for what we experienced at Caesars. I don't know what went through your mind when we went in there, but all I saw when I walked in was like Russian mobsters, bright lights, a line for the nightclub. Omnia, that was there. That line. And you and I are walking in. You're dressed the way you're dressed. I'm in like a Canadian tuxedo, rolling in a turtleneck and a denim jacket. I could not have felt more out of place And it wasn't just the drug paranoia that was going on. We were literally being looked at.
There was like 12 women from South America dressed like Lilu from The Fifth Element.
It was just the Robin Palmer girls
dispersing and coming together like a lava lamp. Like it was literally it was a paragraph out of a fucking Hunter S. Thompson trip in real time that we were living into.
We walk through Caesars and we find the restroom, and I go in first. I'm like running recon apparently. So I go in and I'm standing there, and there are two Persian gentlemen, rather sizable guys, absolutely hammered in the corner, speaking to each other. I don't understand a word that they're saying, but it starts to get a little bit heated, like they're having that drunk friend argument. Then one of them does that slow motion turnaround I can see in the mirror, slow motion and focus on me because I'm the other human in the room. And he starts going, hey. And I'm like, nope, just stare at the wall, Matt. Just stare at the wall. And starts wandering over to me, and I'm just like out of there. And there were multiple antechambers in this bathroom. It was like looking at this endless hallway. There's no way I'm getting out of here. So we just do a loop around Caesars, and the strange feeling of I don't belong, but I didn't belong, and we needed to get out of there quickly. Now, did you see anything in there? I'd love your thoughts. I can remember every step that I took and every face that I saw in trying to get out of this place. Was there anything weird that you saw as we walked?
It was such an odd crowd. It was just it's hard to even typify. I don't know. It was like a sort of like a Chad convention mixed with like a Division II, like lower tier frat party. But if everyone was wearing masks of the same person, right? So everyone was dressed slightly differently but looked identical, and they all had this like similar despondence where they weren't even excited to be there, and the tables were insane and everything was insane. But it was like that the Verve's Bittersweet Symphony video. So we were walking, and not only did we stand out, no matter which way we walked, we were counter to the flow of the way everyone else was walking, just getting shoulder checked by these like emotionless, like Pink Floydites, just mindlessly walking. And that was my bit too. I'm like, oh my God, I'm drowning in a sea of people, but it's not even people. It's just like a mass of the same person. We have to get the fuck out of this place. The buzz was going, but it was starting to turn south a little bit.
We're like, all right, let's get back outside. Let's get back to the hotel. This was clearly a bad idea to walk a mile and a half to take a piss and then walk all the way back, right? We could have accomplished this at the Mirage, but, you know, adventure. As we leave, we get out, we get back to the Mirage, we walk in. Now we've got to navigate the Mirage again. And we're like, all right, there's no way that we're going to be able to get from the entrance to our room in one piece. We should probably stop halfway and have a drink at the bar. So we start walking to Center Bar, and as we're walking, I'm walking down the center hallway, and you're to my left, and I'm basically hugging the right side of the pathway, and I can see this couple coming out of the slots, like, and there's a pillar in the way, so they were going to come behind the pillar and then
blind to.
And I saw this happening, and I knew that they were going to present right in front of us. And as I'm walking, they came out exactly where they were supposed to, scared the shit out of me. I jumped. In my mind, I was just like, oh, that was a little startling. In reality, I think, and you can probably say, because you saw it,
if you were at like an elite CrossFit game and someone was doing a box jump in reverse, but that person happened to be Nosferatu, his fucking arms folded across his chest and he hopped back like his life depended on it. And it startled me. And in the moment that I saw it happening, I went back to the default, like, I'm going to laugh so hard I'm going to have a fucking panic attack laugh. And so now Matt's frozen upon hitting the ground. Very athletic. I was very impressed. And then this old couple who literally looked like they could have been, I don't know, like a parody out of the Beverly Hillbillies, just stands there staring at us, and time stops for a moment.
cold.
Matt is frozen in like the Heisman Trophy pose. I'm laughing so hard I might actually piss my pants. And then all of a sudden it's like the hyperlapse thing or like the time scaling in video. Then time just starts again.
Yep.
So it's slowed, it expands, then contracts.
We get past that couple and we're feeling pretty good. You're nonstop laughing.
Well, I'm dying. I'm like, people are getting up to see who's laughing so hard. I am just geeking out, like 110%.
Howling laughing. We're like, all right, let's go to the center bar. So we go to the center bar. We sit down at the bar. Now, one thing you have to know about this center bar, it's run by all the bartending staff. They all seem to have come from the same prison gang. Because they were all built like they had spent years in a Thai prison. The rest of their penalty was to serve drinks at the center bar.
One of the guys I had spoke to before actually fought Roy Jones Jr. I mean, caliber to this, like legitimate badass dudes.
Well, the funny thing was, I'd sit at the bar and despite how we were feeling, we still held it together relatively well. Yeah. And there was zero sloppiness, but boy, oh boy, they hated serving people drinks. And I was watching it and I said, hey, can I have a couple of Woodfords? And the guy looks at me, is just like, ugh. Now, clearly I offended him in some way, shape, or form. And the music that was playing, the band that was playing, they were a cover band. And they were fine. They were serviceable. And I turned around and I looked at them and it was like every 8th grade substitute English teacher had gotten together and created a cover band that was going to go play Las Vegas. They were recapturing their youth. Every time I turned around, there was another person appearing. There were some on the stage. There were some that were standing off the stage. The guitarist started to walk around the bar and sit at people's booths.
Lay in people's laps and riff.
All I wanted to do is watch the band from this point because they played terribly. They had no presence. There was no style. But I wanted nothing but to get these guys to play every event that I'm ever going to attend again.
It became an exercise in people watching. And so this all sounds innocuous enough, but you have to, once again, reframe relative to our states of mind and what had preceded this. So we're sitting there sipping on the Woodford that, no one wanted to serve to us, next to this people who didn't want to be there, having just had our, strange Nosferatu strip mugging Chad convention experience, both just wide-eyed and bushy-tailed going, this is our last night in Vegas together. All right. Like,
just trying to end the week with a meal and a cocktail.
Yep.
And it has developed into this adventure, right? And I don't know at what point we finally called it a night.
I distinctly remember looking over and we were getting to the end of whatever Woodford that was, whether it was the 3rd or 4th. And I'm like, Matt, I kind of think I want to go. What do you think? And he was like, yes, absolutely. And then the switch got turned off on the receptivity to all of the experience for the night. And it was just like the getting home, like lost in the woods, follow the compass. There has to be a road in that general direction. Let's hike out.
As exhausted and as high and as just mentally spent as I was on that last night, it absolutely made the entire week come together. Absolutely. And I feel like all the stresses just kind of washed away. What a great way to end the week. And I can't say that I've never done that in Vegas before, but this was certainly the most memorable, most visual night that I'd ever spent in Las Vegas.
The only thing that I could think from the outside looking in is it must have looked like we looked like a B movie version of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Totally.
Just sort of, we can't stop here because it's Bat Country. Is the organist is playing the same 3 notes that are sounding so off key and ominous while we're just sauntering up and down the strip like zombies.
Like these 2 morons are coked out of their head and like, nowhere near that. Yeah. We're on basically a chocolate bar and a Xanax.
Exactly.
And like just trying to chill from a huge week. And I think it's probably a great way to end this entire episode, which I'll probably have to cut into several parts. But dude, it was a ton of fun to see you. It's been amazing to kind of go through the whole week again. What's next for you? Are you going to have any workshops coming up?
I have a workshop in April here in Denver on the 27th and 28th. It is sold out, and I'm very grateful for that. So for those of you who are attending, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be part of your journey. I'll be in Seattle in early May at my friend Simon Diaz's studio. Nice. So he's a badass who also partied way too hard. Every time I saw that man, he was 4 sheets to the wind, but having a great time. In the end of May, or mid-May, I should say, the 18th and 19th, I'll actually be in Harlem, New York, running my first workshop in New York in collaboration with Nanlight. So I haven't opened that up publicly yet. Nanlight and I have not made a public announcement. We'll call this the official public announcement for that. But I'm really excited to be in New York doing it. It's been something I've wanted to do since I started getting into education at all. So it feels like an apex point for me. We're going to be at this really rad studio called Uptown Shots, which is a brilliant multi-purpose production studio there. And I'm definitely going to be bringing my A game. I'll probably be in New York for about 10 days. I want to do some touristy things, eat some good food, connect with a lot of people I know out there, and certainly work with, some of the diversity and magic that exists only in that city. So that will be a wild, wild ride. And when I'm laughing hysterically, on too many Xanax out in the streets of New York, I have a feeling I'll blend in even more than I did in Las Vegas, which will be peachy keen.
No one's gonna bat an eye.
No, absolutely. Fucking asshole. Like, I feel at home when I'm in New York. People tell me to fuck off. I tell them to fuck off. And I'm like, oh, all my heartstrings are being pulled at just the right time and place.
Cool, man. Well, I might, maybe I'll try to be a wedding crasher sometime in May and just drive down. Maybe I'll pick up some people along the way and we'll just do a bus tour and follow you around.
We'll just get into like a West Side Story-esque brawl, in the Bronx. Just or dressed up similarly. That'll be what actually takes us viral and makes us famous, is the snapping in denim on the streets of the fucking Bronx. The art, no. The mentorship, no. The positivity, fuck no. Did you see them doing the shuffle in that TikTok video?
Oh my
fucking
God.
Infamy immediately.
Thank you, my friend. Again, love your setup. Love talking to you. And love you as a human. So I will, I'll talk to you soon, man.
I look forward to it.
All right. Take it easy.
Cheers, Matt.